I wonder, what must have been going through Amy Adams Strunk's mind as Mike Vrabel took the field with the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 60? Strunk, owner of the Tennessee Titans, fired Vrabel just 3 years prior. Now, here he was on the biggest stage after winning his second head coach of the year. In 2023, the Titans fired Mike Vrabel after a 6-11 season. Vrabel saw his roster stripped for parts. The front office traded away his best weapon, A.J. Brown, then tossed rookie Will Levis into the fire just to see if he'd burn. In 6 seasons with the Titans, Vrabel saw the playoffs 3 times and won his first head coach of the year. Since Vrabel, the Titans have cratered, going 3-14 in back-to-back seasons. Strunk has fired another head coach and drafted a new quarterback. This is just another example of an owner setting their team back for years. You can swap out general managers, fire coaches, and churn the roster, but the results will never change because the problem remains: bad ownership. That's why frustrated fans bring sell the team signs to games, because until ownership changes, the journey may look different, but the destination rarely does. The world of NFL team owners is a rich tapestry with many stains, and today, we're gonna shine a black light on some of its gross details. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Shut Up Football. I'm Jeff Stoltzfus, that's Kevin, and this is the real reason why bad teams stay bad. In the year 2000, Woody Johnson bought the New York Jets, and then pissed in a wizard's soup, I guess. Somebody cursed him. While the team enjoyed mild success with Captain Stabbin' Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan, it's been a decades-long descent into hell for Jets fans. Johnson's major sins include hiring Adam Gase as head coach after the Miami Dolphins fired him, proving you should never take sloppy seconds from a Dolphin. The Jets started the 2020 season going 0-13. It was a historically bad offense led by a coach known for being an offensive guru. Johnson signed off on drafting quarterbacks Kellen Clemens and Christian Hackenberg in the second round, and Zach Wilson second overall. Geno Smith and Sam Darnold could have been added to that list too. They went on to success, but only years after they escaped the Jets. Johnson was also in charge during the infamous butt fumble, which I know he didn't personally do, but it is a perfect metaphor for how he runs his organization. A bombshell 2024 piece from The Athletic portrayed Johnson as impulsive, easily swayed, and dangerously overconfident. Players, coaches, and executives, past and present, fingered Johnson as the heart of the franchise's struggles, which is not how you want to get fingered. The article revealed that Woody actually vetoed a trade for wide receiver Jerry Jeudy because he didn't like his Madden rating. Why was a 78-year-old man checking video game ratings? Probably because of his teenage sons, Jack and Brick.
I'm weatherman Brick Tamlin, and I like butter. Butter is nutritious, and it tastes great.
These kids don't just sit in the box. They've been reported to sit in on draft meetings and hand out game balls in the locker room. Exactly how much influence they have is unclear, but former GM Joe Douglas allegedly once vented to colleagues, "I answer to a teenager." The Jets have gone 15 seasons without a playoff appearance, the longest drought in professional sports. In 25 years under Woody Johnson, the Jets have gone 184 and 232, making him one of the least successful owners in the league today. Former Raiders owner Al Davis was unconventional. He wasn't afraid to take risks. Sometimes that led to Jamarcus Russell-sized mistakes. But he knew football, and he did have some success in the league. Unlike, say, Mark Davis, Al's son. Mark's bad choices don't end with that haircut. In 2018, Davis lured John Gruden out of his comfy Monday Night Football booth with a 10-year, $100 million contract, the largest coaching contract in NFL history. Draft analyst Mike Mayock was hired the following year as the new GM, even though he'd never worked in an NFL office before. Mayock traded for Antonio Brown and gave him a $50 million 3-year extension, something he would never see. Unlike his frostbitten feet after improperly using a cryotherapy machine in France. We've all been there. And it worked. The Raiders went from bad to not so good. In Gruden's final season, they went 8-8. However, John Gruden was forced to resign in 2021 after his racist emails were made public. Davis replaced him with Josh McDaniels, one of Bill Belichick's undescended testicles. This was McDaniels' second stint as a head coach. He was previously fired from the Denver Broncos for the ultimate sin, drafting Tim Tebow. He also went 11-21. Reports suggested he was stubborn and hard to work with. He rubbed some players the wrong way, showed questionable leadership, and had conflict with the front office, none of which Mark Davis took as a red flag. McDaniels was fired by the Raiders during his second season for poor performance and losing the locker room. In 2024, Davis sold a minority stake to Tom Brady, which is to say he owns 5% of the Raiders, and not a bunch of minorities like I first thought. You would think bringing in the GOAT would be a good idea, but it's off to a rocky start. Brady played a big role in hiring John Spytek as GM. Spytek then brought in Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator and traded for Geno Smith, handing out massive deals in the process. 1 year later, both were gone, as was head coach Pete Carroll. Now there are reports that Brady has installed Alex Guerrero at the Raiders facility to be his eyes and ears.
Hi there, I'm Alex Guerrero.
Guerrero is best known for his alternative health claims, also known as lies. He was sued by the FTC for claiming a supplemental drink cured 192 people of terminal cancer and could also prevent AIDS, diabetes, arthritis, MS, and Parkinson's, even though it very much did not. He also marketed a drink called NeuroSafe,
the human brain,
which he claimed could prevent concussions. Again, the FTC stepped in. He also has a permanent injunction from referring to himself as a doctor, which he is not. According to a Mike Silver piece in The Athletic, Guerrero purports organizational power, allegedly tipping off players about upcoming trades and even threatening staff members' jobs if they don't follow his lead. In 15 years, Mark Davis has delivered exactly 2 winning seasons. He's moved the team to Vegas, lost the stars, and handed the keys to a wellness grifter. The Raiders aren't a football team anymore. They're a $7 billion cautionary tale. While some owners are known for their scandals, Mike Brown is known for his checkbook. Specifically, how rarely he likes to open it. Since taking over the Bengals in 1991, Brown has earned a reputation as the league's ultimate cheapskate. For years, he was criticized for underutilizing the salary cap and treating free agency like a luxury he couldn't afford. Just look at their GM. Not pictured here, because they don't have one. Not technically. Duke Tobin has been the director of player personnel since 2002, serving as the de facto GM for over 2 decades. In any other city, that kind of tenure without a ring is unheard of. But in Cincinnati, stability is just a code word for we don't want to pay a search firm. But make no mistake, every major decision goes through Mike Brown. For years, Brown's thriftiness limited his scouting department. It's only in the last few years that it's reached parity with the rest of the league. Their practice facilities? Barely acceptable. And don't even ask about their indoor practice. That didn't even exist until 2022. This bargain bin philosophy eventually broke their last franchise quarterback. Carson Palmer's 2011 standoff is the stuff of legend. He literally told Brown, "Trade me or I'm retiring," because he couldn't stand the lack of investment. Palmer sat on his couch for 10 months just to escape. The cheapiness of Brown extended off the field as well. According to former Bengal Jonathan Joseph in 2012, Brown put strict rations on basic necessities like Gatorade and toiletries.
3 squares? You can't spare 3 squares? No, I don't have a square to spare. I can't spare a square.
As of 2025, the Bengals were only one of 2 teams in the league that did not provide 3 meals a day for their players. And the food they did get was rated the worst in the league and equated to prison food. They're also the only team in the league that doesn't provide either a family room or daycare on game days. Mike Brown is stubborn, frugal, and has spent 35 years proving that you can't win a Super Bowl if you're worried about the price of a square of toilet paper. As of 2026, the Bengals are still looking for a championship trophy, proving that in the NFL, you usually get exactly what you pay for. Jimmy Haslam bought the Browns in 2012 for $1 billion, and since then, the franchise has burned through GMs and coaches like a fat kid through Twinkies. We're talking about an owner who overruled his own experts to hire Hugh Jackson, a man who delivered exactly one win in 31 games. In 2014, despite the concerns of his front office, Haslam made Johnny Manziel a first-round pick. According to Haslam, a homeless man told him to draft Manziel. Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be something weird.
Johnny Manziel will become even bigger in the city of Cleveland than his buddy and business partner LeBron James ever was.
He did not. He was an undersized athlete with mental health struggles who was more likely to crack than crack a playbook. But the ultimate Haslam move came in 2022. Desperate and impulsive, Jimmy pulled the trigger on the worst trade in NFL history, Deshaun Watson. He gave up 3 first-round picks and a fully guaranteed $230 million contract to a guy facing dozens of sexual misconduct allegations who hadn't played in a year. It was the largest, fully guaranteed deal the league had ever seen. The league then suspended Watson for 11 games due to conduct violations. He didn't start until week 13. The following season, he played just 6 games due to a shoulder injury. And the year after that, just 7 games because of an Achilles injury. This caused him to miss the entire 2025 season. If you're fingers and toesing this at home, that's 19 games started in 4 years, with a record of 9-10.
And as owners, we take full responsibility.
In 14 years, Haslam has churned through 39 starting quarterbacks, 7 head coaches, and 6 general managers, stumbling to a 78, 150, and 1 record. That instability has produced only 2 winning seasons and left Cleveland picking in the top 5 of the NFL draft 4 straight years. Good news, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you still can. And if I ever get good at this, you can take the credit. That is possibly how that works. In the NFL, a toxic owner is a competitive disadvantage. Bo Jackson famously spurned the Buccaneers because he felt Hugh Culverhouse sabotaged his baseball career.
I even sent Hugh Culverhouse a picture of me shooting him the bird, and I sent it certified mail.
Redskins owner George Preston Marshall's reputation was so radioactive that Ernie Davis demanded a trade before his first practice. Even Eli Manning forced a draft day trade because his family didn't trust the Chargers front office. Nobody is clamoring to board the Titanic. Let's talk about Robert Irsay. Robert Irsay, you piece of shit. In 1972, Baltimore Colts owner Carroll Rosenblum traded the team to Robert Irsay for the Los Angeles Rams, which is apparently a thing you can do, as long as you say no take backsies. At the time, the Colts were considered one of the premier franchises in the league, having just won a Super Bowl 2 years prior. Irsay was seen as a penny pincher who constantly inserted himself into football decisions, creating friction with the staff, berating players, and the local media. From 1972 to 1983, the team had 9 losing seasons. Irsay went through 5 head coaches, not including the interim head coaches. Executives and scouts were reassigned, sidelined, or dismissed with little warning. Irsay increasingly centralized decision-making, often overriding personnel and staff. The 1983 NFL Draft had a franchise-changing playmaker in it, billed as the best college prospect of all time, quarterback John Elway, and the Colts held the first overall pick. However, John Elway wanted no part of the Colts. He was very clear that there would be 0 chance he would play for the Baltimore Colts. If they dared to draft him, he was prepared to play baseball for the Yankees, who had drafted him 2 years before. Elway never mentioned Robert Irsay by name as the reason he refused the Colts, but...
Come on! Come on!
It wasn't because of the Old Bay. Robert Irsay bobbed to his friends, of which he had none, then pissed on the city of Baltimore, metaphorically, as far as I know, by moving the Colts to Indianapolis the very next year. Irsay packed trucks full of office chairs and jockstraps and evaded the city's fuzz before they could use eminent domain to seize the team from him. Irsay kicked the bucket in '97, but the people of Baltimore still hate his guts. Even the legendary Johnny Unitas, the guy who was the Colts, completely disowned the franchise after they skipped town. He donated all his Colts memorabilia to a Baltimore museum instead of giving it to Indianapolis. which is delightfully petty. And when Baltimore finally got the Ravens, Unitas became a Ravens fan. His son, Jim Irsay, was a much better owner, often described as a player's owner, with a massive heart and known for his philanthropy. However, Irsay fired head coach Frank Reich mid-season in 2022 and replaced him with Jeff Saturday. Saturday was a former center, ESPN analyst, and Jim Irsay's drinking buddy. He had zero coaching experience at the college or pro level. He won his first game, which said more about the Raiders than it did Saturday, and then lost the final 7 games of the season. I give Jim Irsay credit though. He was the first owner to go on record saying there was merit to remove Dan Snyder from the Commanders, which sounds pretty timid, but it was a massive controversy at the time. Before this, no owner had ever publicly suggested ousting one of their own. Daniel Snyder was a scumbag. His 24-year reign in DC was basically a 2-decade masterclass in how to ruin a legacy. He bought the team in '99 as a lifelong fan, but by the time he was forced out in 2023, he was the most hated man in the city. He turned a 3-time Super Bowl champion franchise into a bottom feeder that managed exactly 2 playoff wins in a quarter century. He also possessed the moral integrity of a foot fungus. In 2008, Snyder hired quarterback coach Jim Zorn to be the team's new offensive coordinator, before he had hired a head coach. Nobody wanted to work with a coordinator they didn't pick and had zero experience, so Snyder just promoted him to head coach. The move made the organization look so unprofessional that top-tier coaching candidates avoided Washington for years. Snyder was also behind the Albert Haynesworth disaster in 2009, a 7-year, $100 million contract. Haynesworth didn't want to play in the team's defensive scheme. He showed up out of shape, failed his conditioning test multiple times, and was eventually suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. He literally laid down on the grass during a live play, and he was gone after 2 seasons. Snyder also allegedly had secret videos made of his cheerleaders, got caught hiding millions in revenue from his fellow owners, sued 125 season ticket holders, including a 72-year-old grandmother who couldn't afford her season tickets anymore following the 2008 financial crisis, sued a reporter because he was critical of him, took out $55 million in secret loans without team approval, and allegedly hired private investigators to dig up dirt on other team owners.
The culture is actually damn good.
All while his stadium crumbled nearly on top of players and sometimes sprayed a fountain of shit water all over fans. When Snyder finally sold the team for $6 billion, fans considered it an enema. Bill Bidwill, or BB as he can't stop me from calling him because he's dead, bought the Arizona Cardinals back in 1962 when they were the St. Louis Cardinals. He remained the owner until 2019 when he stopped because he was dead. Classic BB. In 58 years as the owner, he accomplished very little, going 380, 493, and 15. They were a consistent bottom-tier team. Despite the losing, Bill Bidwill was generally beloved by all. Unlike, say, his son, Michael Bidwill, who is not known for his sunny disposition. In a 2023 ESPN article, a former Cardinals employee described working under owner Michael Bidwill as miserable, marked by hostility, threats, and sustained verbal abuse. His conduct reportedly drove 2 pregnant employees to tears, and they were far from the only ones affected. When former general manager Steve Keim was arrested for a DUI in 2018, multiple employees say Bidwill called a staff meeting and berated Keim in front of colleagues, causing him to break down. According to former staffers, the workplace under Michael Bidwill was one of constant fear, bullying, public humiliation, and retaliation. One person described it as, "You're either an enemy of Michael Bidwill or a future enemy of Michael Bidwill."
It's a beautiful day here in the city of Phoenix.
In early 2021, Neuheisel claims Bidwill told her to ship a firearm via FedEx to an acquaintance.
He's Michael Bidwill, and I want to tell you, I'm not a judgmental person, but I have to say this. Is a horrible person. I mean, through his core.
Reports of a toxic, fear-driven work environment also appeared on Pro Football Network and Yahoo, with employees alleging defamation, invasion of privacy, and mistreatment. One person said, "It just added extra layers of unnecessary barriers to do your job when you're already stressed." Yeah, It's hard to do your job when an unfettered rage monster is prowling the halls to harvest your tears for his bathwater. The guy needs to learn how to relax like Robert Kraft. Do they not have day spas in Tempe?
Of course, most of this is hearsay. However, the NFLPA does an annual player survey, and in 2 of the last 3 years, players have given Michael Bidwill an F grade as an owner. He's the only one to receive that grade.
The Cardinals have the largest championship drought in American sports history at 79 years. Stephen Ross wants to win. Unfortunately, he owns the Miami Dolphins. In 2019, Ross thought he'd found his future in coach Brian Flores. On the surface, it worked. Flores dragged a rebuilding roster to back-to-back winning seasons. But by 2022, the relationship didn't just end, it detonated. Flores filed a class action lawsuit alleging systemic racism and claiming that Ross didn't just want him to coach, he wanted him to cheat. Flores alleged that Ross offered him $100,000 for every loss during the 2019 season to secure the top draft pick, which is a lot of money for something they were already doing for free.
Ross wanted to secure a top quarterback in the draft. This was during the whole Tank for Tua campaign, which ironically later became the Tank with Tua campaign.
After Ross fired Flores, he quickly moved on to his next big idea, recruiting Sean Payton and Tom Brady. There was just one small problem. Brady was still under contract with the Bucs, and Payton was still under contract with the Saints. I guess that's actually 2 small problems or one big one, because it's a violation of the league's anti-tampering policy. The NFL's investigation found the Dolphins impermissibly contacted Brady and Payton via emails, texts, phone calls, and meetings.
This is what we call an orgy of evidence.
The NFL determined these actions were of unprecedented scope and severity. Ross was suspended, fined $1.5 million, and stripped of his 2023 first round and 2024 third round draft picks.
I didn't know I couldn't do that.
In 18 years of ownership, Ross has delivered exactly 0 Super Bowls, 2 lost draft picks, and 1 massive legal headache that's now threatening the entire league. It turns out that tanking for Tua was the easy part. It's the winning with Ross part that seems impossible. Is David Tepper actually the worst owner in sports? Or is he just easy to hate? Well, the math says both. Since he took over in 2018, the Panthers haven't just been bad, they've been historically incompetent. We're talking about a .310 winning percentage, the lowest in the league over that span. That means for every 3 games you sit through as a Panthers fan, you are statistically guaranteed to see 2 losses. But it's not just the losing, it's the chaos. Tepper has burned through 7 head coaches in 8 years. It started by firing Ron Rivera, then he handpicked Matt Rule because, and this is a direct quote, he dresses like shit and sweats all over himself. And probably some other stuff too, like rebuilding Temple and Baylor's programs. Tepper handed him $62 million and full roster control, only to fire him before his 3rd season was even half over. Then came Frank Reich. Tepper hired a Super Bowl winning architect to a $36 million deal, only to treat him like a summer intern. Reports say that Tepper actually crashed coaching meetings to critique play calls in front of his staff. He fired Reich after just 11 games. Tepper is still cutting checks to Rule and Reich, 2 men he's paying millions of dollars to not coach his team. Honestly, when your team is still this much of a circus, it kinda makes you want to throw a drink at someone. Tepper's Panthers have a 44-89 record that proves money can buy a team, but it clearly can't buy a win.
Now here's a secret that will probably make you throw things. Even though a team might be losing, the owner is still winning.
A massive ProPublica study in 2021 found that the owners across the big 4 sports leagues in America report incomes millions of dollars lower than what they actually take home. How? Amortization. Under a 2004 law, an owner can take almost the entire purchase price of the team and write it off as an expense over 15 years. They treat a TV deal or a star quarterback like a piece of heavy machinery that rusts over time. This paper loss lets them offset their other income, meaning the richer the team gets, the less the owner pays in taxes. It's a multi-billion-dollar tax shield. That's on top of the billions in public subsidies. By reporting fake losses on profitable teams, owners aren't just saving money, they're draining it from the public. That's less money for schools, medical research, and other social safety nets that millions rely on. It turns out the NFL teams aren't just a business, it's a giant siphon moving money from the public's pocket into the owner's vault. In 2018, despite $656 million in income, Clippers owner Steve Ballmer's tax rate was just 12%. What was your tax rate last year? Plus, despite the depreciated assets, the team is actually worth more over time. According to Forbes, the actual value of an American sports team has increased by over 1,000% over the past 2 decades. Since Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys in 1989, he's seen a 7,000% return on his investment. Not bad for a team that hasn't seen an NFC Championship game in over 30 years. So who is the best owner? Maybe the answer is no owner at all. The Green Bay Packers are the only major team in American sports with 0 billionaires at the top. Instead, they're a non-profit corporation owned by over 500,000 fans who hold stock in the team. Here's how that works. Fans elect a 45-member board of directors who then appoint a 7-member executive committee. This committee chooses the president and CEO. This person acts as the owner in NFL meetings, meaning when the team owners rub elbows at their annual Eyes Wide Shut parties, it's the Packers president's elbows rubbing and chubbing. This structure makes the Packers bulletproof. While teams like the Browns or Panthers are at the mercy of one guy's ego, the Packers are run like a community trust. And the result? 30 winning seasons over the past 50 years, which is 6th in the league. And if you're feeling a little depressed, don't worry. It can get so much worse. Jimmy Haslam and the Browns have officially proposed a rule change that would allow teams to trade draft picks 5 years into the future instead of just 3, because fuck the future. 7 team owners are over 80. Mike Brown is 90. You think Mike Brown has anything on his calendar 5 years from now other than organ donation? An owner's reach is about to get longer. And no, this is not an NFL problem. There are a lot of other bad owners in other sports too. But it's too late. The video's already over.